I hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Hey, what's up with it, fam? It's Hot Boxing Minute, your favorite pharmaceutical engineer turned boxing analyst, back at you with the realness, of course, as only I can bring it. And a subject I wanted to talk about, old man Bob Arum. How can you not like Bob Arum, Mr. Top Rank Promotions? Bob Arum was in an interview recently, kind of put his foot in his mouth. He was asked about the possible schedule conflict between Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez fighting on the same night as the Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor super fight. Now, for those of you who don't know, Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, as well as Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez, are going to be fighting on that same night on April 30th. Now, apparently Oscar Valdez hasn't signed a contract yet, but I digress. In theory, they're both supposed to be on the same night. The reporter asked old man Bob Arum, how do you feel about the schedule conflict with those two fights being on the same night? To which Bob Arum responds, it's not a big deal. Nobody really watches women's boxing anyways. Oh ho ho! Drop the chauvinist bombshell, will you, Bob? Listen, folks, for those of you still stuck in the 1900s, women's boxing has gained a considerable amount of traction. And don't get it twisted. This isn't a white knight moment. This isn't me putting on a cape, telling everyone, let's go save the women. They don't need saving. They're strong enough on their own. This is me telling USA boxing fans, let's catch up with the rest of the world as far as global boxing is concerned and start acknowledging these women boxers. Overseas, they have been packing arenas and getting big paychecks for years. It's time that America starts doing the same, right? So it's just a fascinating thing that Bob Arum would say that, especially considering that Bob Arum has one of the most talented pound-for-pound women boxers in the world on his roster in the form of Mikaela Mayer. And of course, Mikaela Mayer, who is very, very vocal on social media, had nothing to say in response. And I guess that's the most prudent thing you can do in a situation like that, because why would you want to bite the hand that feeds you when your boss is Bob Arum? Mind you, Bob Arum is 90 years old. Bob Arum is probably got some outdated viewpoints, and regardless of what the man is so powerful in boxing, we have to acknowledge it. But I think he missed the mark, especially with the way he promoted it and said that statement that women's boxing is really not that important. Now, on a personal note, here's how I feel about women in combat sports, period. The only sport I watch is boxing, sometimes MMA. But as far as like sports in general, like women fighting, just combat sports, there is just something different about combat sports. It is the most visceral and purest form of human competition. Two people, that's it, going at it toe-to-toe, seeing usually in a war of attrition if they're both well-conditioned to see who can win in a fight. And I think even as kids, men, we can admit that we liked watching fights. For my whole life, as far as I remember, I was always into watching fights, whether it be on TV, watching professionals, on television, on boxing, or even wrestling, especially as a kid in school. None of y'all can front on me that when you were kids in school, you did not rush to go see fights. Whenever people were fighting, if they were in the quad, if they were in the hallways, you would hear a fight is happening, and what would you do? What would you do as a kid when you would hear a fight is happening in school? You would immediately go run to the drama because you want to see what's going on. And I don't recall that ever being different for guys or girls. Actually, we would be more hyped to see the girls fight because girls would grab each other's hair, smack each other's head on the concrete, rip their clothes off. Women were always just slightly more savage when we would see them fighting in public, at school especially. Now, my question to the fellas out there is, at what age do men stop finding women fighting to be fascinating? Because I don't believe that men really do. I don't believe it's about men not fighting fascinating. I believe deep down it's that certain guys get to an age where they feel threatened by the idea of a strong woman. Am I wrong on that? Y'all let me know. But I mean, that's just the way I see it. I feel like at a certain point, guys grow up and they get older and they're like, I don't want a strong girl. And it's not for everybody. Some guys, and it's understandable, I guess, they like them dumb and submissive and rather weak emotionally. More power to you guys. If you are into that, I'm not knocking it. Different strokes for different folks. Me, I need a warrior on my side. I need somebody with a strong mind, ideally with a physically strong body. Although I'm not against chubby, hey, it's all good if she doesn't fight. I'm not going to restrict myself to that, but I have no problem dating strong women. And I think a lot of the guys out there are going to be very, 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 very surprised at the viewership that shows up for that Amanda Serrano-Katie Taylor fight. You guys, this Amanda Serrano-Katie Taylor fight is historical. As big as Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez is with unifying the super featherweight belts, this fight with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor will officially break the glass ceiling that MMA did with Ronda Rousey years ago. Is it not time? Is it not time? Now, on this April 30th card, it's an amazing card. This fight card at Madison Square Garden on April 30th is going to be headlined by Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. You got the return of Jesse Vargas. He's going to be fighting Liam Smith. You know that's going to be a good fight. And not only do you have the girls doing the lightweight unification of Undisputed, you've also got the super middleweight Undisputed unification fight with the women. You've got Franchon Cruz-Dezurn and Ellen Cederos unifying the super middleweight belts. Are you not entertained? Really? Like, I don't really understand where the criticism is on this women's card. Across the pond, they are live about it. You know, out there across the pond, women like Katie Taylor, women like Katie Taylor. So for those of you that don't know and haven't been keeping up on global boxing, women like Katie Taylor and women like Cecilia Brækhus have been packing arenas and been headlining events out there and getting big paydays across the pond. Why are we so behind that? As far as USA boxing, if anything, are we not supposed to be the pinnacle of forward thinking for the Western world? Or at least, I guess that's what we're taught to think about ourselves. But the truth be told, it seems like we're a little bit behind when it comes to acknowledging women in boxing. Why is that? I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I am really hyped about this card. They had the press conference today. We saw Eddie Hearn. We saw Jake Paul. Jake Paul out of nowhere is becoming the face of boxing, strangely enough, right next to Canelo Alvarez. Of course, Jake Paul doesn't have as much oomph with his presence as Jake Paul because he isn't an elite level talent in boxing, but you got to give it up to Jake Paul. For all the trash we talk about Jake Paul, that man is single-handedly breaking the glass ceiling for women's boxing, getting them higher paychecks than any women have ever gotten in the sport of boxing, and he's also simultaneously sticking it to Dana White, forcing Dana White to take a good hard look at his business practices as far as paying fighters pennies relative to the big chunk of pie that the UFC promotion gets to make and pays their executives. It's pretty astounding, no? Y'all tell me. I'm not one to criticize anybody that's chasing success, and as goofy as Jake Paul is, you gotta give that man his credit. Anyways, y'all, April 30th, Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor, how do y'all feel about that fight? Let me know in the comments section. Hit that like button. Are you not already following my content? Hit follow and stop being behind the rest of everybody that knows about the tidal wave that is coming in their face, and that would be me. Hot Boxing Minute, the future of this YouTube boxing analysis thing. Peace.